It was the best of times. It was the worst of times. Fun fact, Dickens was describing the fractional CFO market. Everyone wants one. No one seems happy with theirs. On average, I get asked twice a week for fractional CFO recommendations. And on average, I get complaints 3 times a week about someone's current setup. For some reason, founders have started treating me like a safe space to vent about their fractional finance help. Maybe because I write about this stuff, maybe because I listen, probably because I don't bill by the hour. And just to be clear, I do not do any sort of fractional CFO work. It's not really my cup of tea. Feels too much like financial tourism. But here's the thing. Fractional CFOs are incredibly important, especially in the early stages. So let's go over when you actually need finance help. Most startups don't need a full-time finance person until they're doing at least 5 million in revenue or have raised a Series B. And even that is not a hard rule. I say Series B because revenue doesn't always correlate with complexity. I've seen 50 million ARR SaaS companies with clean books and simple operations. Reps sell deals, customers buy deals, money comes in and payroll goes out, rinse and repeat. Meanwhile, a $5 million healthcare marketplace can look like 7-dimensional chess. What you need early on isn't a CFO. It's someone who understands how your business actually makes money and how to keep it from lighting cash on fire. That's why I usually recommend making your first business hire, not a CFO, not a head of finance, not someone who walks around quoting GAAP. If you're not allocating capital at a fast clip yet, you're just monitoring cash leaving the building, then there's not much point in paying someone to call balls and strikes all day. You need someone who can partner with product and sales, connect the dots, and make sure you're not flying blind on cash, which is why there's a market, why there's a need, why there's a different kind of help. But that market, we're going to cover it in a second after we talk to our friends over at Campfire. I hate to break it to you, but you've been lied to. We've all used legacy ERPs that make it seem common to have painful migrations, endless consulting fees that break the bank, and even after you're live, getting simple answers still means hours in spreadsheets. Yeah, try getting to ARR in QuickBooks. Not going to happen. Campfire fixes that. It's the AI-first ERP built for modern finance and accounting teams. It's helping mid-market and enterprise teams close faster, unlock insights instantly in the ERP, and scale smarter without the additional headcount. And get this, I use Campfire myself. Your boy, drinking his own champagne here, and it's been a game changer for mostly media. The interface, intuitive, migration, a breeze, and it's freed us up to focus on strategic work like doing this commercial read. They just raised 35 million from a sell to further reimagine the ERP. That is not easy to do. I'm excited to see how they keep reimagining this space, and you should be if you care about the future of finance. Check them out at www.campfire.ai today. That is www.campfire.ai. The market is hot. In fact, it is too hot. That's why the fractional CFO market is booming, Metro booming, especially in the venture-backed world. The need is real. But here's the rub. A lot of people filling that need aren't actually qualified. Most fractional CFOs I come across fall into one or both of these buckets. 1, they've never been a full-time CFO of a company. 2, they couldn't credibly step into that role if you needed them to. It's the old, I couldn't make the team, so I started my own type thing. Tangent, it reminds me of this time a kid in high school didn't make the baseball team, so his dad funded a private AAU team that was supposedly more elite. You see, the CFO role is different from the rest of the exec team. Founders can anoint themselves, product leaders can invent their own lane, but a CFO, someone has to choose you. Why? You're acting as a fiduciary, trusted by shareholders to allocate capital wisely, protect the company's long-term value, and flag when something doesn't add up. It's less about closing the books and more about protecting the business from itself. Let's touch on the expectation gap that exists, because last month I spoke to a founder whose company does about 2 million in annual revenue. We both agreed they're not ready for full-time finance hire yet. What didn't make sense is they're already on their second fractional CFO firm in under a year. And this one is taking 18 to 20 days to close the books and give them numbers to review. In the founder's words, I don't get it. There's like not even that much to close. Another company I invested in had the same issue. They're a marketplace business, but both fractional firms they worked with tried to shove them into a cookie cutter SaaS model. So you're saying we should measure our marketplace business using your pre-built off-the-shelf SaaS template? The biggest gripe people have with fractional CFO firms isn't accuracy. They're usually somewhat right. It's the gap between expectations, what you thought you were buying, and reality, what is usually delivered. Let's talk about the first example, title inflation. To justify higher fees, many firms hand out bloated titles like candy. I've met fractional finance directors who wouldn't cut it as senior FP&A analysts. The second example is labor arbitrage. The person managing the relationship and sells you the deal is in the US, but the person actually doing the modeling probably based in Eastern Europe, India, or Africa. And there's nothing wrong with the latter. It's actually a savvy move, and many of those folks are excellent at what they do. Better in some cases in US labor, but it's still a gap in expectations. And when context or communication breaks down because the person who knows the guts of the business is 12 to 14 hours away, it becomes a problem. And the margins on these companies are like wild. If you're charging $8,000 a month for CFO plus FP&A plus bookkeeping, and it only costs you $4,000 to deliver due to the labor arbitrage, congrats, you're running a cash cow. I know some of you listening at home are keeping score and doing the mental math. Well, if I land 10 clients, that's $80,000 in monthly revenue and $40,000 in margin for me. Now that's the alert. That's why the market is flooded, even with the ones who shouldn't be allowed in. Many fractional CFOs should be thrown out of the club, as Rob Gronkowski would say. So when you find a good one, hold on tight, because fractional CFO providers, if you've made it this far without rage quitting, rage unsubscribing, or cursing my family name, I've actually got some really nice things to say. Because when you find a great fractional CFO, they're one of the highest leverage dollars a company can spend early on. Maybe second only to a cracked engineer who doesn't sleep. I still don't truly understand what that term means. Forget printing your financial statements. A truly great fractional CFO can unlock value in a few game-changing areas. Pricing decisions. Sometimes a small tweak can lift margins by 5 to 10%. Margin that flows directly to the bottom. But you only find that lever if someone's looking closely. Hiring cadence. Who should you hire next and when? Mis-sequencing your hires is one of the fastest ways to delete money from your bank account. Not running out of cash. Cash flow is the lifeblood of your business. A good CFO makes sure you don't hemorrhage cash. Forecasting reality checks. Most plans are a work of fiction. A great CFO builds something you can actually operate against without embarrassing yourself at the board meeting. And there's emotional ROI too. I'd be remiss not to mention the lower leverage stuff, the things that don't move the model but definitely calm the founder brain, like relief from building board decks, not just the work but the mental overhang. Market validation, a gut check on whether your approach is insane or just uncommon because they've seen other business models. And they're easy to unplug. If it's not working, you walk away. No equity, no messy offboarding. So some final thoughts on my checklist. Because if anyone should be frustrated, it's not the founders who DM me. It's really the good fractional CFOs, the ones doing excellent work, whose reputations get sullied and dragged down by firms hawking spreadsheet snake oil. And there's a reckoning coming. The market's going to separate the steak from the sizzle. So if you're thinking about hiring a fractional CFO, here's my go-to checklist. Ask these up front and actually listen to the answers. Where is the actual accounting and modeling performed? Can you give me 2 references from companies with a similar business model and stage? What part of our model would you spend the most time stress testing and why? What does a typical monthly cadence look like with your clients beyond just delivering reports? Have you ever held a full-time finance leadership role at a startup? And what's your philosophy on when a company should bring finance in-house? And last but not least, if someone is trying to say that you should hire them because they have Fortune 500 experience and you are a $2 million startup, while that may sound great, remember, you want someone who has lived and breathed your scale before. So hope you enjoyed today's podcast. Check out Campfire and everything that they're doing to build an ERP that is AI native. And I'll catch you next week.